Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story is from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and it says, am I the arsehole for yelling at my wife when she didn't back me up after our friend almost pushed me into a pool? I, 34 male, have never been a strong swimmer. I can tread water if needed, but I generally avoid swimming when possible. This is something my wife Anna, 32 female, knows and has always respected. Last weekend we were at a barbecue at our friends Dave and Sarah's house. They have a nice backyard pool and most people were planning to swim. I politely declined when everyone started changing into swimwear, saying I'd just hang out poolside. My wife went swimming with the others while I enjoyed watching from a safe distance. After about an hour, my friend Dave started insisting I join them. I kept saying no, explaining I wasn't comfortable swimming. He laughed it off and said, "Come on, don't be boring." I continued to refuse, getting increasingly uncomfortable with his pressuring. Things escalated when Dave started approaching me with this mischievous grin, saying, "Sometimes you just need a little push." He actually grabbed my arm and started pulling me towards the pool. I panicked and pulled away, nearly falling in the process. I was genuinely frightened and shouted for him to stop. What upset me the most was that my wife was right there watching this happen and said nothing. She was laughing along with everyone else like it was just a joke. I felt completely betrayed that she didn't step in when she knows how uncomfortable I am with swimming. After we got home, I confronted her. I'll admit I raised my voice significantly. I said something like, "How could you just stand there while Dave was trying to force me into the pool? You know I hate swimming. You're supposed to have my back." She got defensive and said I was overreacting and that Dave was just having fun. This made me even angrier, and I ended up sleeping on the couch. The next day she told me I embarrassed her by making a scene and then yelling at her afterwards. Now she's saying I should apologize to her and to Dave for ruining the vibe at the party. I don't think I'm wrong for expecting my wife to stand up for me, but maybe I shouldn't have yelled. So, am I the arsehole? The simple answer to this one is no should have been enough from the very beginning. And I know that stressed feeling that you get. I'm not a strong swimmer myself. I swim like a brick. I can get myself from A to B, but it's not pretty. But I couldn't imagine your partner at the same time turning around and seeing them laughing at you when they know exactly how you feel about this, and seeing you distressed in that moment whilst dismissing your feelings afterwards is only going to compound what's going on there. Could the talk after the event been more calm? Probably, because yelling rarely solves anything, but your reaction came from a place of fear and betrayal, which is understandable to me. But Clive Bixby says, so if she didn't swim and someone tried to throw her in and you stood there laughing, she should apologize to you and the person trying to throw her in. Sound right if you switch it up? No statement says your wife and Dave are ridiculous little punks. 2NPack says, grown ass man still playing childish games on their friends and your wife's just going along with it. Yeah, fuck that. If it was the other way around, she'd be livid with you and Dave. Your wife should have your back. You weren't ruining the vibe. Dave did with his constant pressuring. Heffel says, order a prostitute to Dave's house and settle things with your wife. This is not serious enough to press charges or get a divorce, no matter what this sub says. That's always the advice of this sub. Besides, the cops would laugh at you and you would destroy your family because of a little thing like this. Just tell her if she does it again, she's getting thrown in the pool, completely dressed, and better not say a fucking word because it's funny, right? And she's overreacting. So, a couple of days after this one, OP comes in with an update and says, it's been a few days since my original post, and I wanted to give an update on the situation with my wife and Dave. First, I want to thank everyone for their comments and insights. I'm sorry I don't have time to respond to each comment. I also appreciate the Redditors saying that I'm weak or should start standing up for myself. Not gonna lie, maybe there's some truth in that. However, reading the different perspectives helped me reflect on the situation more clearly. After taking some time to cool down, I decided to have a proper conversation with my wife. We sat down after dinner and I made sure to approach the topic calmly. I started by apologizing for yelling at her. I explained that while I was hurt by her not stepping in, My reaction was not constructive and I shouldn't have raised my voice. Anna listened up and then opened up. She admitted she hadn't realized how genuinely frightened I was in the moment. She thought I was just being stubborn about swimming and that Dave was trying to lighten the mood. She said she could see now how his actions crossed a line, and she apologized for not supporting me when I needed her. We had a deeper conversation about boundaries and how important it is to back each other up in social situations. She promised to be more attentive to situations that make me uncomfortable, and I promised to communicate my feelings before they escalate to shouting. It was actually a really productive conversation that brought us closer. As for Dave, he called me the other day. I thought he might be calling to apologize, but that's not what happened. Instead, he asked why I was being so weird about the pool incident, and said that everyone was just trying to have fun. When I tried explaining how his actions made me feel unsafe, he dismissed it and said I need to lighten up and learn to take a joke. I kept my cool and told him firmly that trying to force someone into the water when they've repeatedly said no isn't a joke. It's disrespectful and potentially dangerous. He scoffed and changed the subject to some upcoming basketball game. My wife and I have decided to take a break from hanging out with Dave for a while. Anna completely supports this decision now that she understands how serious this was for me. We're planning to spend more time with friends who respect boundaries instead. I'm relieved that my wife and I are on the same page now, even if Dave still doesn't get it. Sometimes you realize which relationships are worth putting work into, and which ones might need to be reconsidered. The top comments on this one say, well done on actually talking with your wife about it. But Dave, fuck Dave. Salty Interview says, Dave isn't a friend. Friends listen when asked to do so and try to understand each other out of respect. Callie Mouse says, there was a news story about how a maid of honor pushed the bride into a pool as a joke. She landed wrong and was paralyzed from the chest down. Glad OP's story has a better ending. NCJR says, nice job solving the problem like two adults. As for Dave, he sounds like a jerk and a bully, and no matter what someone says to a jerk/bully, they usually don't understand. Step away from him, and if anyone asks why, be honest. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Prestigious Depth 365 from the Relationship Advice subreddit. And it says, I, female 24, and my boyfriend, male 25, had a trip planned, and the day before the trip, he stops messaging me and then doesn't show up the next day to leave. Can you tell me what to do so I don't lose my mind? Hi, this is my first post because I need people to tell me what to think right now. My boyfriend and I have been dating for a little over 6 months, and we have both been really busy with work, and his dad has recently been sick, so we haven't gotten to see each other as often these last 5 to 6 weeks. So about a month ago, we decided to plan a vacation during a national holiday that is going on right now. We both are early in our careers and don't make much, but we decided to use a bit of savings and fly to a nearby country and have a beach vacation, stay in some hotels, swim, and a lot. We've both been excited for this trip. He's planned most of the general stuff, which days and times we should fly, he booked all the hotels, we're going to go back and forth between some islands, and messaging me almost every day this week with weather updates and things we could do. I've been super busy with work, but cut some time earlier this week to make a more in-depth schedule, so we could make the most of our vacation, and to book some stuff for us to do to ensure we would have tickets. It was all going perfectly. We were both clearly excited and had spent a good amount of money. I know we already spent at least $1,000 booking stuff, so he was very invested. Plus, he's the one who initially came up with the plan and invited me. Here's where the story turns. Keep in mind our flight is at 9:10 this morning, the 30th, so we had loose plans to meet near my street and get a taxi at 7:30. Yesterday, the 29th, I have Wi-Fi issues at my apartment, so I don't get a good morning message. When we first started dating, I kind of found these a bit annoying, but I've grown to love them so much, and I know it means a lot to him that I say good morning back, so I try my best to respond within a few hours. So I go to a coffee shop and see that he hasn't messaged me, which I find a little weird, but I take the opportunity to be the one to say good morning first, something I very rarely get to do since he works a 9 to 5 and I'm remote, and I get to work on my latest project and don't think too much of it. Then a little later, I send him the latest ideas for our trip. and ask if he's bringing any nicer clothes if we want to do a slightly fancier dinner one night. No response. This man is always on his phone. He responds so fast sometimes it gives me whiplash, and it's been hours and nothing. But I know he's at work, and I feel a little crazy for even thinking anything of it. I accidentally leave him for hours sometimes because I'm not as attached to my phone, so it's not a big deal if he doesn't respond quickly. But it is weird for him. A few hours later, I send him a booking confirmation. No response. I finish my work and go home. Then 5:30 rolls around, and I know he should be off work. I message him again and no response. An hour later, I message again because I'm getting worried he isn't messaging back the night before our flight. No response. I call him a couple of times and he doesn't pick up, so by 7:30, I'm stressing out, and I walk over to his apartment, a 5-minute walk from mine. His bike is outside his door, but I knock for 20-ish minutes and no response. I'm trying to come up with excuses. Maybe he had to work super late. He's at a dinner. His phone is dead or broken. I go home and just pack and go to sleep. This morning, still nothing. We plan to leave at 7:30, so I get as ready as I would have and try calling him a few times. At 7:30, I go out to the street corner where we normally have met before and wait. To get to the airport in time to check in, we have to leave by 8 at the absolute latest. I message and call him the whole time and nothing. At 8:01, I head to his apartment again. I'm pounding on the door, calling him. There is nothing, no response. His shoes are there that I can see. His bike outside, unmoved from the day before. We have missed our flight, so I request a refund on the site while literally sitting against his door. I miraculously got the refund, by the way, and I cancel any bookings I'd made, all of which went through. So I'm super mad about missing our vacation, but I want to emphasize that I'm not mad about the money. I was able to get it back. I'm scared at this point. He's been the perfect boyfriend. He brought flowers to my place when I got sick. He's always on time to pick me up for our dates. He plans things for us. We've never fought. I don't think I've ever seen him annoyed with me, and I'm super annoying. The last time I saw him, the 24th, his last words to me were, "I love you," like 3 times. And then when he left me a message that he loved being with me, and then later I got a good night message. Cut to today and suddenly it's radio silence. Nothing. I'm crying at this point and accept that he's probably not home or I would have heard him, so I go home and just cry and get pizza and wine and message him approximately 1,000,000 times. And try to call and nothing. I haven't met his family yet, so I don't have their contacts. I've met a couple of his friends and workmates in passing, but I didn't think to get any of their numbers. Why would I? I know the buildings where he works, but not where his office is or the name of the company. It's not my native language and names are really hard for me to remember, so he might have told me, but I forgot if he did. My point is that I have no way of contacting him. If he's in the hospital or something, no one is going to think to call me. It's the evening of the 30th as I'm typing this. I recently got back from his apartment again and his bike hasn't moved. I take the message to his door to call me and my contact info for anyone who goes to his apartment in case someone else might know what happened. I can't think of anything else to do and I'm terrified and crying constantly, thinking the worst. I'm trying to think of what could possibly be happening. He takes his bike everywhere but it's outside his apartment unmoved. He spent a lot of money on tickets for this trip and then didn't show. Where I live, you need your phone to use taxis and metros and such. And there are charging ports and repair shops everywhere, so even if his phone died the 29th or broke, it'd be fine by now. The best idea is that there was some sort of family emergency. Maybe with his dad who is sick, that he had to go early on the 29th to see them. And after he got there, he lost his phone and has been super crazy with family stuff that he hasn't had the bandwidth to go get a new phone. He also just has my contacts saved and doesn't have my number memorized. We use WeChat. So he wouldn't be able to contact me on another phone. I've cried more today than in the past year. Please tell me other things I can try, or other excuses for why he isn't responding and didn't go on the trip. I'm so scared. When I was at his apartment door tonight, all I could think of is, what if he fell and hit his head and he's on the other side of this door dead? But I'm not about to go full crazy and call the cops, though I'm considering it at this point. Because the image won't leave my head and something is wrong. I can feel it. Please help me. Edit. Thanks for telling me I'm not overreacting. This is what I needed to actually try to contact the cops. So, of course, the top comment was, definitely call the cops. This is very worrying. I'd be very concerned about his safety/well-being. You are not overreacting. Have them do a wellness check. Little Missy says, why aren't you calling the police? Call them. Opie says, okay, thanks. I really didn't know if I was overreacting. Oracle of Atlanta says, if Chinese is not your first language, I'd also look into contacting the embassy for your country. Got the impression you were foreign. They may have resources to help you get translations when contacting the police. I really hope that he's safe and that you're doing okay as you can be in this situation. You are not overreacting in the slightest. I'd be a mess, and so would most of my loved ones if something like this happened. Trust your gut. Please don't prioritize updating Reddit. Your emotions and both of your well-being should matter more. Thinking of you guys. Opie responding saying, thanks so much. So many people have just been replying. Why haven't you gone sooner? The Chinese is very much not my first language. When I'm tired and upset, I'm even worse. But I was thankfully able to get by. Thanks for your kind words. It's really helping me wind down from the craziness. And I've already seen the top of the update. It pretty much says something already, so I'm not going to try and speculate what was going on at all. But yeah, my first thought was, missing for that amount of time, not turning up for a holiday. That's very concerning. And I know in some places people have to be missing for a certain amount of time. I'm not sure about wellness checks and things, but I'd certainly be getting in contact with the police anyway, just to say what's going on, because it all does sound very shady, right? But anyway, Opie did update the post and said, he's not dead. Okay, so it's been a crazy night. But everyone asking why I hadn't already gone to the cops. It had only been a day and a half, and I live in a very safe place, so I didn't want to overreact. People have always told me that I blow stuff up, so I'm very cautious about it now. I know I probably should have gone earlier though. Anyway, I left my house and tried to find a police station, but all I could find were traffic violation stations. So I called in, even though I have the speech capabilities of an 11-year-old in Chinese, and told them what was going on. There was a nice woman on the phone and she was very helpful and patient, and sent over some officers to meet me and help me. They immediately take my case very seriously, but I still have the problem of not really having much info to give them. They asked if I had a picture of his ID, and I was like, no. And so it took them a long time to find his record in the system. They were ready to go with me to go and do a house check, but then they got an update on the system and asked if I was okay going with them to the station. And of course I was. So I get there and they ask me a few more questions like if we were fighting, no we weren't, etc. And the officers who I'm talking to get a bit nervous, and one types something into his phone and shows me a translation, and it says, your boyfriend was arrested 2 days ago. I felt so many emotions and I'm still reeling. I barely slept last night and I've been worried, sick and crying all day, and I'm so relieved that he's fine. He's not dead or hurt or sick or in a coma or something, but at the same time, he's fucking arrested. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, quite frankly. They couldn't tell me why he was arrested because the case isn't closed, but they took down my number and said they'd call me. But yeah, I'm so exhausted from this whole ordeal. Since I know people will ask, he's a great guy, a very nice person. He does, however, have very little regard for rules and regulations. He's an arsehole driver on his bike and often cuts off cars. Also, he's not an angry person ever, but I can kind of see him getting into a fight if there's a good reason, at least in his own mind. I know he once got into an altercation with someone early in our relationship for cursing out his mother, but both of those mean you are held in custody until they figure out the case. If it's just a minor traffic violation or a fight, he'll be out in a few days, and probably pay a fine. If it's something worse, well, then maybe I shouldn't be seeing him anyway. Anyways, thanks for everyone who commented, and made me feel like I wasn't overreacting or being a crazy girlfriend. I'll update if I ever find out what he did. Edit/update, the more I think about it, he had to have been arrested early on Tuesday, so probably not a fight or anything. Maybe he was caught on camera for... ? Edit again. When I say he has little regard for rules, I mean compared to me. It's very typical here. Bikes are illegal in this city, so I'm told, and yet I almost get hit by one daily. Jaywalking is illegal, and yet he and everyone else does it all the time. Also, you can get held in custody for very minor things, which is why I haven't blacklisted him quite yet. Like once a guy yelled slurs at a group of my friends and called my black friend the N-word, and the police detained him for 3 days for disturbing the peace. Not saying my boyfriend would do that, but you can get detained for parking tickets. Someone said to OP, this post made me realize how rare it is that anything leaks from China onto the English-speaking internet. Opie says, yeah, I'm originally from America, so this might not be a good thing, but one of my first thoughts when I started to truly spiral was, let's ask Reddit. Another commenter says, early in our relationship, my husband got pulled over in a small town in Kansas for rolling stop at a stop sign. He had some unpaid parking tickets from years before, so they arrested him. Luckily, he was able to get them cleared up, and he was able to get a word to me, and was out in a couple of days. I hope you have the same kind of luck with your boyfriend, and it's something that can get cleared up quickly. The timing really sucks though, and I'm sorry you missed your trip. Your boyfriend will really need to make this up to you. Another commenter says, it'd probably be alright. Honestly, but it's hard when someone you care about is going through something like this, and you're left feeling lost and a bit bewildered. I suspect many of us have felt this way at some point, facing an unexpected crisis, so maybe try to be kind to yourself and just focus on taking things one day at a time. Because really, there's not much else you can do right now, is there? Opie says thanks, yeah. It's stressful, but I'm also just glad he's okay. I'm typing this until I get tired enough to go to sleep at this point. Holy moly, but now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of that situation? Do you think he's done something more serious or not? We'll certainly look out for an update on that one, but let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. And hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care.